to my Flagstaff home. Today I'm going to be making a soup with an overabundance of kale that I have in my refrigerator. Sometimes we end up going to the farmer's market and getting too much, or you end up with an abundance in your garden harvest and you kind of wonder what in the world are you going to do with it. Well, what I'm doing today is making more than what I need so that I can freeze it for another time. So this is a greens soup, and I'll just show you, it's very simple. So I'll show you how to put this together. So let me turn the camera around so you can take a look. So I'm heating up some olive oil here in this pan right now, and after it's heated up I'm gonna throw in some chopped garlic, and this is about 6 or 7 cloves of garlic, and you might think, my gosh, it's gonna be really tangy or that your breath is gonna stink for weeks, but it really, once garlic is cooked, it doesn't do that. And so you just grab a little spoon here so I can stir it around. But you just fry up the garlic. And then what I have done in the meantime also is that I have chopped up some kale. So let me show you that. You can just take the full leaf and rip it up into bite-sized pieces, or on some of these where the stems were pretty thick, I kind of ripped the leaves away from that. My husband doesn't like it when they're, you know, harder pieces of the stem in the soup. So this is just a huge bunch. It was like a overflowing Ziploc bag filled with kale. And so what I'm gonna do now that the garlic is, let's take a look over here. Garlic's frying up pretty good. So now I'm going to take the kale and just stuff it into this pot, and it will wilt. So it doesn't need to have any water in it or anything like that at this point. Switch the camera to my left hand here. So I'm just going to kind of hold this on here. And the kale will wilt down. You can use any kind of greens. Collard greens work really well. Chard works really well. But I find that the thicker the green is, the more sturdy it is, the better it stands up to being in a soup. For example, spinach is a much finer leaf, and so that kind of tends to break down too much and dissolve. You can see that the kale is beginning to wilt. For the broth, I'm putting in some homemade chicken broth that I had made, and it's frozen, so I have that right over here. I have a few containers of that. They're still thawing out. So once the kale is wilted down some more, then I'll either microwave these just to get them to melt a little bit more, or even throw it in frozen and it'll just thaw out when it's in the pot. The additional step that you can add to this is to cut up some potatoes and put those in as well, and then you'd let it cook on the stove for about a half an hour until 25 minutes to half an hour, however long it takes for your potatoes to be done, because that's really about all you need time for. And that's really it. You can, if you don't have chicken broth, you can add water, about 6 to 8 cups of water, and then put in some chicken bouillon or vegetable bouillon. And if you've got, like I said, if you have potatoes in there, you cook it until the potatoes are finished. You add salt and pepper to taste, and so you just kind of taste it along the way when it's about ready. If you're not cooking potatoes, it really doesn't take very long to cook this up. You just want to get your flavors right and make sure that the kale is cooked to a texture that you enjoy. And then one other thing that I've heard of that's really good to put in here just before you serve it is just a little splash of rice vinegar. It gives it a nice little tangy flavor. So what I'm gonna do after this, you could just fix it all up and eat it with some, with some sourdough bread or French bread or something like that. Look at how much these greens have wilted down. That looks nice. Or what I'm gonna do is take this and ladle it into Ziploc bags once I've cooled it down. That way I can freeze them flat and it saves space in the freezer, and then on a night when I don't have a lot of time to cook, I can just get one of those out, thawed out, and I could even cook potatoes at that time and add it on the night I'm gonna eat it. So let me go ahead and finish cooking this up, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Well, we're back, and as you can see, my kale soup here is coming to a pretty rapid boil. I'm turning it down. I really didn't want it to get that hot. But we've just got the garlic that was fried a little bit in olive oil, and then I added the kale that was ripped into bite-sized pieces into the pot. Really way more than you need. It was piling up above the edge when I first put it in. I say way more than you need, way more than it looks like you need. It wilts down, and then I added in my broth. So I had just added in even some chunks of frozen homemade chicken broth that I had, but like I said before, you can add in 6 or 8 cups of water and add in some vegetable bouillon or chicken bouillon to give it some added flavor. Now, I added some salt and pepper to it at the beginning, and then I tasted it just a few minutes ago, and it didn't seem to have the flavor I wanted, so I added a little bit more. The broth that I put in when I made it didn't just have chicken and chicken bones in it cooking down, but I had also put in some onions and some other vegetable scraps that I had to give it some flavor. So you can add different spices into it to give it the flavor you want. Once again, I'm going to cool this down and then bag it up in Ziploc bags so that I can freeze them flat. And when I thaw this out to make it, I could either just serve it up this way with a little splash of rice vinegar in it before it's served, or I could reheat it and cook up some potatoes in there. I might want to cook the potatoes ahead of time because I wouldn't want the kale to get too soft. It's been cooking for about 15 minutes, maybe 20 at this point. And at this point, I could just scoop it up and we could eat it for dinner. So this is a really great way to have a quick dinner at night, or a way to handle an overabundance of a harvest from your garden and save it for in the freezer. It'll save for several months, and if you wanted to just put it in the refrigerator, it would last a few days before you would need to eat it. So it's just a really good way to either store food, preserve it for another day, or have it for dinner tonight. So I hope that you'll try this out and let me know what you think. And I hope you'll join me again on my Flagstaff home. Bye.